Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Lugadowski of WeAreChange.org, and yet another edition of What the Hell Really Happened, a show where we give you all the most important news in one single day. So if you're lazy and incompetent like I am, this show is for you. Well, sort of. And of course, today there's a lot of things to talk about, specifically the new king of Israel. There's also some good news if you like cocaine, a Storm Area 51 update, of course, the latest information regarding Jeffrey Epstein, and pretty much welcoming you to the new technocratic overlords track, trace, database, and enslavement system that we're all under. Yeah! How exciting. Oh yeah, I was supposed to stop slamming the tape. I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna do that anymore. Promise. Alright, so first of all, the first thing that everyone is talking about today is, of course, the latest kind of bombastic, egotistical, some would even say facetious comments from U.S. President Donald Trump calling himself King of Israel and Second Coming of God. He, of course, said this officially in a tweet, quoting a right-wing radio show host who officially said, quote, "They love him like he's the second coming of God, but American Jews don't know him or like him. They don't even know what they're doing or saying anymore. It makes no sense," end quote. Continuing on, quote, "But that's okay. If he keeps doing what he's doing, he's good for all Jews, blacks, gays, everyone, and importantly, he's good for everyone in America who wants a job." Mr. Trump added, of course, to the official tweet by saying, "Wow." And I would just have to say, the tweet's just a little bit self-aggrandizing. But again, what are people expecting? Our president is not known for his modesty. And ultimately, a lot of this talk about this behavior is just a distraction against the bigger actual things that are happening in this world that are actually important. Now, specifically, when it comes to the topic of Israel, you could definitely describe Trump as the king of Israel, as, of course, especially with his foreign policy, he has prioritized Israel over, of course, everything and everybody else, including the United States. If you look at what he has done, not only with the embassy, not only with the Golan Heights, not only with the conflict in Syria, but also, the conflict in Yemen, where just right now we also found out that a U.S. military drone was shot down over Yemen. The worst humanitarian crisis that Donald Trump is continuing and participating with Saudi Arabia and Israel on, helping, fighting on the alongside of Al-Qaeda and Sunni radicals against, of course, the Shia population that mainly comes from Iran. That whole paradox, that whole backwards neoconservative foreign policy that has been continued by the president before him, and even before that previous president. Yes, that same idiotic, hawkish policy that, again, does America and the United States no favors at all. So this is where the conversation should be around this particular topic, especially with the latest news of more possible involvement of the U.S. military in the Middle East, especially surrounding these latest events and other events surrounding Iranian tankers, regardless of all that. No. We're not going to discuss that. We're just going to discuss some tweets here, which, again, is a distraction. Now, moving forward in our controlled media landscape of hypocrisy and PR talking points of the establishment, we have the news media making a stink about major U.S. corporations working with ICE and the federal government. Again, I'm going to show you how this is very hypocritical in just a little bit, but let's entertain this since everyone is talking about this. And specifically, there's a lot of criticism against Palantir, Microsoft, and other big tech Silicon Valley companies that are working on the track, trace, and database spying system, all conveniently for your, quote, security. And if you... I still can't believe they're using the line that the government needs to have full authority and power over you, knowing everything about you for your, quote, security. This is the most stupidest thing that any person could believe. Again, historically, governments care about their special interests, have sacrificed their people, and people need to realize, just look at history. Just when you really start to understand full scope of history, you will understand why it's important to be very critical of government and not to give government any power. So again, this criticism is pointed, but there's a bigger PR move surrounding this. But let's talk about Palantir, which is very important. They have numerous government contracts, and they are in the business of mass surveillance networks. There was even recent video footage released and leaked specifically detailing, showing off, bragging how Palantir could track leakers, protesters, and of course also prisoners. That, they tell you publicly prisoners. They're like, oh no, there's a bad hombre over there. There's some bad criminals over there. They might be different than you in their ethnicity. Be afraid of those guys. They, of course, play up on those emotional fears, try to divide and conquer you, just like they have, I would say, successfully in our society. But when it comes to, oh, look at all the journalists, all the protesters, all the activists over there. No. They're not going to tell you about those people being tracked, traced, and database. They're not going to tell you about those people put in their mass surveillance grid being tracked down because essentially they are the biggest threat against corruption. No. Don't worry about those guys. Worry about those other people that we want you to be mad at. And again, Palantir is an organization that we have been following very closely because they have been recently involved in many Bilderberg meetings, specifically being represented by Alex Karp and Peter Thiel. Karp being the CEO of Palantir, which was set up by Peter Thiel back in 2004, with, of course, shadowy connections to the CIA, and also has a $800 million Pentagon battlefield intelligence contract. Yeah, we had many conversations with Peter Thiel surrounding this particular meeting. Some have even speculated that he is some kind of good guy within the system, but unless there's any concrete evidence other than theories out there, it is very hard to believe that. He is also a major supporter of course, Donald Trump. These are systems specifically also built by Microsoft and other Tech Valley U.S. companies that directly work with China on their own track, trace, and database society, where even, we all understand how draconian, how bad, the severe negative ramifications that exist because of the Chinese social credit score and their artificial intelligence facial recognition systems that are so high-tech now that they could even read lips and determine if you're speaking positively of the government or not, and then deny you travel because of that, which they have done to over 2 million people already, and they're bragging about it. And a lot of this is done because of U.S. company support that, again, are being criticized here in the United States for helping ICE, but most of their criticism, especially with helping China set up its surveillance state, is very non-apparent. It's not as highlighted. It's not as prominent as, of course, the very political, partisan activist calls against ICE. And again, this also relates to the latest events unfolding in Hong Kong, specifically with many U.S. politicians being on the side of quote, democracy, that's what they're calling them, protesters in Hong Kong who don't want to be acquiesced into the Chinese political system. A situation, by the way, that is escalating, that personally I may be on the front lines of. I'm still determining if I should go. If you know anyone in that region, also let me know specifically. I think it's important to get a good set of eyes on the situation there, not just what we're seeing on the mainstream media, to tell you the full truth about this angle, because again, I'm very, very skeptical, which you should be. Especially with the amount of fake PR bullcrap and hooey that we see promoted by the mainstream media that is usually placed there for us to believe in. But again, we're closing in on a scenario that is reaching its crescendo and will be fully determined very soon, in my opinion, and many other people's opinions who are watching the protests unfold. But regardless of that, protest is far more nuanced and far more detailed than, of course, the U.S. mainstream media is representing it as, specifically with many people saying that it is not just political, but also social economic issues, specifically in Hong Kong, that are causing a desperate situation to become more desperate. But specifically surrounding all of this, the major point that I wanted to make here, as pinpointed by this QZ.com article headline saying, quote, China embraces its surveillance state while the U.S. pretends it doesn't have one. And this is an important distinction to make here, because this is the distinction that is not being told to you by the U.S. mainstream media. And this is why some of the latest actions, specifically by Donald Trump, specifically around the NSA, specifically around these contracts and these tech Silicon Valley companies that go uncriticized for setting up the surveillance state in this country, need to be talked about. And they're not. And this is why, one of the reasons, we're also heavily censored and screwed over by companies that are threatened by, of course, the release of this information, or even just entertaining this kind of information to the wider general public because it doesn't go along with their PR talking points and the agenda that they have for you. And this is something very serious. This is something that we need to take very seriously because, again, these are mass, powerful entities that are becoming more powerful than the state. And as even Tucker Carlson is alluding, these people buy and sell politicians like it's nothing, as represented by the big flip-flop that recently happened with Utah Senator Mike Lee, who recently transformed from being a critic of Google to now being one of its major allies, even writing specific op-eds, even specifically lobbying in the U.S. representatives, in our political body, that of course, no, antitrust laws are not the answer. These are not monopolies. These powerful, huge, super mega rich entities that have more power and influence than governments. No. Breaking them up is not the answer. And as documented, it is Senator Mike Lee that has profited greatly, specifically within his state of Utah, after very conveniently switching his stance from being a critic of Google to being a supporter, with his state being awarded many benefits from Google, where they have established many of their jobs, and even fundraised for the senator. And in other news of just absolute corruption, laws being totally meaningless, money just being able to buy you anything you want, we have the latest developments with, of course, Jeffrey Epstein. And again, just when the story couldn't get more ridiculous, we're finding out right now that Epstein's former cellmate is begging a judge to be transferred to another jail because allegedly he was threatened by the jail guards at the prison where Epstein supposedly committed suicide. Really, the story makes no sense at all. Where his former cellmate is saying that prison guards told him that there will be a price to pay if he did not stop talking about Jeffrey Epstein. And holy cow, if you have a man like this being afraid, you know we have a serious problem. Now, of course, many people have suspected this former prison cellmate of Epstein for being the one who inflicted the injuries on Epstein. But again, we don't know who or what to believe in this particular situation because, again, everything here is shrouded in mystery. The surveillance cameras allegedly malfunctioned. There was no press conference. The administration at this prison facility literally put their tail behind their legs and tried to ignore all of this. They never had a press conference, never revealed significant information around this, with even information coming out that they are not complying with investigators surrounding this particular case. And this news only highlights the greater concerns specifically surrounding this story, with allegedly this former cellmate being threatened not to release any more information. And holy cow, I mean, again, in these situations, the burden of proof is always on the government. This is an accusation here against the corrupt system that covered up one of the world's biggest pedophile problems in the world. This is an evil, I would even say satanic system that covered up the worst human acts that could be committed against the most innocent in our society, children, for frick's sakes. And this is a system. I'm pounding the table again because I can't control. I'm frustrated. I'm sorry. I'm extremely frustrated, and you should be too. You should be extremely frustrated to understand that the fact that we had the potential of finally getting justice, of finally seeing all the skeletons in the closets of the elites, of the most powerful people who buy their way out of everything. We finally had a small window, a small opportunity to see the truth of how evil the people in the upper echelons of our society are, and that was taken away. That was taken away by these crooks in the prison industry, by the federal government, and these people deserve no leniency. Donald Trump and his attorney general are giving it to him so far with their latest insignificant actions, firing the prison warden. But again, they're just letting him go. That the prison warden deserves to be held accountable and put in jail for his role in this entirely evil, I'm talking about evil, matter. So yeah, guys, some lighthearted information. Oh yeah, by the way, if you're not a fan of the Track, Trace, and Database Society, definitely check out Brave. It's a browser like Chrome, like Mozilla. I actually am using it. I actually love using it. I saved a lot of time. I have a lot of privacy factors using this browser. To me, it's even better than Chrome, and Chrome's very convenient. Even though it's Orwellian, even though it's on top of being one of the most destructive surveillance grid systems in the world, but Chrome is convenient. Let's be honest. This is more convenient since it focuses on your privacy without costing you any convenience. I'm not lying about this. I don't have an official partnership, but I do have an affiliate code that gives me $5 for everyone that signs up and uses it for 30 days. That affiliate code is in the description. Click on it, and you will not only have more privacy, but you will also support independent media by doing so. And because you guys do, because you guys share these videos, because no one else systematically, especially within YouTube, does, only because of you does our voice get out there. If you found any of this information useful, please share it with your friends and family members, because again, yeah, not looking good. Not looking good. Calling out a system that we're on, yeah, that's not usually the most, yeah. But hey, we still got you guys, and because of that, love you. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.